Imagine holding a solid steel wrench that, upon receiving a digital signal, dissolves into a fluid metallic swarm, only to instantly reconfigure itself into a perfectly calibrated hammer. This is not the realm of cinematic science fiction, but the bleeding edge of material science. We are entering an era where the physical world behaves like software, where the very atoms and molecules that compose our environment can be coded, altered, and commanded at will. The era of programmable matter has arrived, promising to fundamentally rewrite the rules of physical reality. At its core, programmable matter is a revolutionary concept where materials can change their physical properties like shape, color, density, or even conductivity on demand. Unlike passive materials, which are defined by their static chemical composition, this new paradigm involves engineering at the nanoscale to create active components that respond to external stimuli or internal commands. Wood, steel, and glass are what they are until they break or degrade. Programmable matter, however, possesses an inherent capacity for dynamic transformation, blurring the rigid boundary between a physical object and a digital algorithm. The exploration of the scientific basis began with relatively simple precursors known as shape memory alloys. These are specialized metals, such as nitinol, that can be deformed when cold, but return to their pre-programmed original shape when subjected to heat. A bent wire of nitinol dropped into hot water will suddenly spring back into a perfect coil, seemingly defying the permanent damage of its deformation. It was a crude but profound first step, proving that physical memory could be embedded directly into the atomic lattice of a material. Yet those early alloys were limited by their reliance on simple thermal triggers and their inability to perform complex multi-stage transformations. The true leap required moving beyond metallurgy and into the realm of artificially engineered structures. Scientists needed materials that did not just react blindly to heat, but could process information, compute structural changes, and execute precise physical alterations. The quest to build intelligence directly into the fabric of reality required an entirely new architectural approach to matter itself. Enter metamaterials. These are synthetic, artificially structured materials, engineered to have properties not found in naturally occurring substances. Instead of relying on the base chemistry of their atoms, metamaterials derive their abilities from their geometric structure, often designed at the microscopic or nanoscopic level. By precisely arranging these internal architectures, researchers can create materials that bend light in impossible ways, channel sound waves around objects, or dynamically alter their own load-bearing strength. The geometry itself becomes the code that dictates the material's behavior. This structural engineering has given rise to the phenomenon of 4D printing. While traditional three-dimensional printing creates static objects layer by layer, 4D printing introduces time as the fourth dimension. Objects are fabricated using specialized smart materials that are programmed to autonomously transform their shape or properties. Over time, in response to specific environmental triggers like moisture, temperature, or light, a printed flat sheet might fold itself into a complex, interlocking geometric box, simply by being exposed to a specific frequency of ultraviolet radiation. The immediate applications of these temporal transformations are already reshaping medical interventions. Consider a cardiovascular stent, 4D printed to remain tightly compressed during a minimally invasive surgical insertion. Once it reaches the target artery, the ambient heat of the human bloodstream triggers its programmed expansion, allowing it to gently and perfectly conform to the vessel's unique contours. This eliminates the need for mechanical balloon expansion, reducing tissue trauma and dramatically improving patient recovery times. The material itself acts as both the medical device and the surgeon's hands. Moving beyond single-piece transformations, the field is rapidly advancing toward self-assembly. This is a process where disordered, individual components automatically organize themselves into complex functional structures without human intervention. Inspired by biological processes like the folding of proteins or the swarming of insects, self-assembly relies on local interactions between individual modules. Researchers at institutions like MIT have developed robotic cubes called M-blocks that lack external moving parts but can spin, leap, and magnetically snap together to form varied architectures on command. The M-blocks proved the concept, but the ghost of those initial engineering hurdles lingered. Scaling self-assembly down to the microscopic level introduces massive complications regarding power distribution and computational capacity, A macro-scale robotic cube can house a battery and a microprocessor, but an autonomous module the size of a grain of sand cannot. Researchers are currently wrestling with how to power millions of microscopic nodes using ambient energy harvesting, and how to distribute computational algorithms so that no single node needs to hold the entire blueprint of the final structure. If these microscaling challenges are resolved, we will witness the birth of claytronics, a theoretical form of programmable matter consisting of nanoscale computers known as catoms. These catoms would act like physical pixels capable of moving, adhering to one another, and changing color to form three-dimensional interactive replicas of any object or person. Imagine a video conference where, instead of looking at a flat screen, a swarm of catoms flows onto your desk and perfectly recreates the physical, tactile presence of your colleague in real time. Long before claytronics becomes a consumer reality, programmable matter is poised to revolutionize defense and security through adaptive camouflage. Unlike traditional static camouflage patterns, adaptive systems utilize metamaterials and responsive polymers to actively read their surrounding environment and dynamically alter their visual and thermal signatures. A military vehicle coated in such materials could actively project the texture and temperature of the surrounding desert or jungle, effectively becoming invisible to both the naked eye and advanced infrared sensors. This capability immediately forces a profound ethical dilemma regarding the dual-use nature of such technology. The same adaptive camouflage that protects soldiers could be utilized by malicious actors to render weapons, surveillance drones, or even explosive devices completely undetectable in civilian environments. When the physical world can lie to our eyes and our sensors, the foundational trust we place in our spatial awareness is shattered. The proliferation of invisibility technologies challenges the very mechanisms by which societies maintain security and enforce the law beyond the battlefield. These dynamic materials will radically alter the architecture of our cities. Buildings constructed with programmable matter could dynamically adapt to their environment, shifting their molecular density to insulate against a sudden blizzard or increasing their porosity to allow cooling breezes during a heat wave. In earthquake-prone regions, load-bearing support beams could instantly alter their flexibility to absorb seismic shocks, preventing catastrophic structural failures. The static concrete jungles of the 20th century would be replaced by responsive, living infrastructure. Furthermore, the integration of self-healing capabilities into these structures could essentially eliminate the concept of physical degradation. Materials embedded with microcapsules of healing agents or programmed to rebind at the molecular level upon fracture could repair their own cracks and wear autonomously. A bridge that sustains microfractures from heavy traffic would silently knit itself back together overnight, drastically reducing maintenance costs and preventing tragic collapses. The lifespan of public infrastructure could transition from decades to centuries. To orchestrate these massive citywide transformations, programmable matter must be inextricably linked with advanced artificial intelligence. The materials themselves cannot possess the macro-level awareness required to predict weather patterns or manage citywide energy grids. Instead, AI will act as the central nervous system, processing vast amounts of environmental data and transmitting real-time physical updates to the smart materials. Matter will become the physical output mechanism for artificial intelligence, allowing AI to directly manipulate the physical world without the need for traditional robotic appendages. This synthesis of AI and dynamic materials forces a radical reevaluation of the nature of objects. For all of human history, an object's identity was tied to its physical form and function. A chair was a chair, a table was a table. But in a future dominated by programmable matter, a single volume of material could be a chair in the morning, a desk in the afternoon, and a bed at night. The identity of the object is no longer fixed in its physical substance, but in the software state currently running through it. This fluidity of form threatens to completely dismantle the traditional global manufacturing economy. If consumers can purchase a generic reservoir of programmable matter and simply download the blueprints for the household items they need, the demand for factories, shipping networks, and raw material extraction collapses. The concept of physical waste becomes obsolete as a broken or unwanted item is simply commanded to dissolve back into its base, modular state, ready to be recompiled into something new. We would transition from an economy of physical goods to an economy of pure data. Yet an economy of pure data running our physical reality introduces unprecedented vulnerabilities. If the structural integrity of your home, the shape of your vehicle, and the functionality of your medical implants are all dictated by software, then physical reality itself becomes hackable. A malicious cyber attack would no longer be confined to stealing data or freezing bank accounts. It could literally dissolve the floor beneath your feet or command the steering wheel of your car to turn into a liquid. The cybersecurity of tomorrow will be a matter of physical survival. The stakes escalate further when considering the intersection of programmable matter and autonomous weaponry. A drone swarm composed of shape-shifting metamaterials could infiltrate a secure facility by flowing through ventilation shafts as a liquid-like stream of microbots, only to reassemble into a lethal configuration once inside. The defense against such fluid, unpredictable threats requires an equally dynamic countermeasure, potentially leading to an arms race of morphing, algorithmic matter fighting invisible wars at the microscopic scale. As leading material scientists and futurists posit, the ultimate trajectory of this technology is a state known as synthetic reality. In this paradigm, the distinction between the digital metaverse and physical reality dissolves entirely. You would not need a virtual reality headset to experience a digital world. The physical room around you would dynamically render whatever environment you choose, instantly fabricating the necessary furniture, textures, and interactive elements. The universe becomes a physical manifestation of code, bending to the whims of its programmer. Pushing this technology to its absolute limits brings us to the unforgiving environment of deep space exploration. Traditional space travel is bottlenecked by the immense cost and physics of launching heavy, static payloads out of Earth's gravity. Well, every tool, habitat, and rover must be meticulously designed, built, and launched, with no room for error or unforeseen needs. Programmable matter offers a radical solution to the tyranny of the rocket equation, allowing astronauts to carry a single mass of raw, configurable material. Upon arriving at Mars or a distant moon, this payload would not need to be manually assembled by spacesuited astronauts. Triggered by a command from Earth, the mass would autonomously unfold, self-assemble, and lock into place, constructing a pressurized habitat tailored precisely to the local terrain and atmospheric conditions. If a specific tool breaks or a new scientific instrument is required, the habitat could simply extrude and assemble it on demand. The colonization of the cosmos will not be built with hammers and nails, but with algorithms and smart dust. The profound implications of humanity wielding such absolute control over matter echo the deepest questions of our existence. By mastering the very atomic arrangements of our surroundings, we elevate ourselves from passive inhabitants of a rigid universe to active architects of a fluid reality. We are learning to speak the native language of the physical world, translating our thoughts and digital commands directly into the manifestation of mass and form. However, the lessons from those early research phases never faded. The immense power to reshape reality on demand carries the equally immense responsibility to safeguard the structural integrity of our society. As we blur the lines between software and physical substance, we must establish rigorous ethical frameworks and impenetrable security protocols to ensure that our programmable future does not become a malleable nightmare. The control of matter is the ultimate power, and it must be wielded with unprecedented wisdom. The journey of programmable matter, from the simple thermal reactions of shape memory alloys to the theoretical wonders of claytronics and self-assembling space habitats, represents humanity's ultimate rebellion against the constraints of the physical universe. We are no longer satisfied with the materials nature provided. We are writing our own physics, coding our own reality, and preparing to step into a future where the only limit to the physical world is the boundary of our own imagination.